John Basalla is here in studio to talk about the Beatles Marathon. I believe this is the 40... Can you remind me?
Been on the air since 1981.
So
Summer of 81.
44th, I believe. This would be the 44th Beatles Marathon.
First marathon was December 1980, right after Lennon's assassination. And that was in January. And then the summer marathon started after that.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well,
Okay.
that's good to know, and information about the Beatles Marathon historically here at the Sting. It's been going on for many years. And, John, you've been hosting it for a long time, too. I did, I believe it was 2021 when I hopped on with you a little bit to co-host. But can you tell us about what's coming up in 2024?
Okay, what's coming up in 2024 is Beatles music on the Beatles Marathon. Wow, what a shocker there. We're going to do what we usually do. We'll have a little bit of time cut out, usually once an hour, to play some solo music, but mostly it'll be Beatles music. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a focus on Ringo Starr's two most recent EP releases. Each of them had 4 songs on it, so you got 8 new songs by Ringo, which basically means we got a whole new Ringo Starr album kind of spread out over the two recent CDs, because he's rolling. And we're going to be giving copies of both of the CDs away. One of them is called Rewind Forward by Ringo Starr, featuring 4 songs. And then we're going to feature also the newest CD Ringo just put out this year, called Crooked Boy, which features the song Gonna Need Someone, which we are currently playing in regular rotation on a regular format, as it's a good alternative rock / straight ahead rock and roll song. It's really excellent. And Gonna Need Someone. And we're going to be giving away both of those CDs throughout the Beatles Marathon. Additionally, for the Beatles, one more Ringo thing. I got a couple of these record store days. Ringo Starr put out the Crooked Boy release on vinyl first, and it wasn't on CD initially. It was only available on vinyl for record store day and Vinyl-thon, and you've got a couple of those that we'll be giving away as well. And then, in reference to the whole Beatles, last year they managed to release the one song that they wanted to put out back in the mid-1990s that they couldn't get the technology to work well enough in order to make it reasonable for a regular release. But with artificial intelligence, Ringo and Paul and engineers were able to turn the song written by John Lennon, in which he only recorded a demo of it on a cassette tape, called Now and Then. They were able to put it out, and Paul McCartney has talked about how it's definitely the last new Beatles song you will ever hear. And Now and Then was fortunately played here at WBWC on a regular format. We're going to play it a number of times on the Beatles Marathon and give away copies. We'll be giving away copies, and we'll, for the most part, let people decide. Do you want to have a CD copy of Now and Then, a single with Love Me Do as a second track on the CD, or would you like to have a Now and Then and Love Me Do, a 7-inch vinyl 45 RPM record? You can have either one as you listen to the Beatles Marathon, and that's what we'll be giving away.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear all of that. More on the Beatles Marathon here. What are your thoughts on, the history of how it's affected the Sting over the years, what it's meant to our listeners? How is that going to be affected in 2024?
Well, it's meant a lot to listeners, because we have some listeners who listen every year. And hopefully with Tom on the week before, the Sunday before, we'll do another show where we feature maybe lots of remakes of Beatles songs by different artists. That'll be fun. Or we could play a number of songs about the Beatles. We've never done that before. Songs about the Beatles. I collect those too, and so maybe we'll do a combination of both of those. That would be let's see. The marathon is on August 8th, so it would be the Sunday Night at the Oldies show the week before, but that'll be up to Tom to decide on that. And as for the marathon, well, I think it's meant a lot lot to the listeners. We have a lot of the listeners who listen every year. In fact, I do know of at least one person who specifically takes a day off from work so he can listen to the WBWC Beatles Marathon every year. That's kind of cool.
That is absolutely cool, and thank you very much to that listener for tuning in to the Beatles Marathon. Another 2 or 3 quick questions here before we get back to the music. In terms of the Beatles Marathon for 2024, what's going to stand out in terms of like all 4 members? Are there going to be some hits that we play from all 4 members' solo careers? Is there going to be a tribute to a certain artist or one of the 4?
Every hour there will be a little, usually maybe not every hour, but most hours there will be near the end of the hour a little segment where we'll play some solo music, and so you'll hear solo music from John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Pete Best, and Ringo Starr.
Even Pete Best.
Oh yeah, I got plenty of his stuff. So we do not on the Beatles Marathon here at we do not discriminate against Pete Best, who was kind enough to grant us an interview many years ago. So Pete Best is on the top of my list of people to support during the Beatles Marathon, and we will do so.
That sounds great, John. And one more thing about the giveaways. Do you have any idea of any other things that could have come up about? Or is there going to be any guest hosts? Is there going to be?
No, I don't know who's going. I don't know who's going to guest host. A couple of people have expressed interest, but I've got no firm commitments. So we'll just have to wait and see, or actually not wait and see, wait and hear.
Wait and hear, and that's what we'll do here on The Sting. John, thank you so much for joining Extra Innings this evening, and you could also hear John every Sunday on the Golden Age of Rock and Roll from 6 to 8, which opens up the triple threat, as I like to say, of oldies alternative. You got Golden Age of Rock and Roll with John from 6 to 8. You got Tom Lamoureux with Sunday Night the Oldies. He's still in studio. He's going to be talking some Rolling Stones here soon.
Yeah.
He's going to be... I
like that. Beatles and Stones.
Oh, yeah, they're back-to-back.
Beatles and Stones, back-to-back.
They're back-to-back, and, there's always the talk of competition between the two of them. But, to me, I feel like they're still very vastly different groups, and I don't think you can compare the same level of talent that John Lennon and Paul McCartney had to the talent that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards had.
And the Rolling Stones, they did the Beatles song, I Want to Be Your Man.
That is right. They did do that. And we are going to, of course, talk about the Rolling Stones here in just a couple of minutes. But you can listen to Sunday Night at the Oldies from 8 to 11 with Tom. And then, of course, me on Extra Innings. You're listening right now from 11 to 2 right here on The Sting. All right.